So today's video is going to be slightly different, not like my usual video. Obviously, there's going to be some gameplay, but the gameplay is not necessarily going to reflect what I'm going to be talking about, okay? That's just in the background. I mentioned last week that I wanted to do a video kind of like State of the Game, where I talk about the issues in the game which has been affecting, or at least destroying the fun for me when it comes to my overall experience of playing War Robots. Now, I initially thought I was going to, do 10 things which have been affecting the game in a negative way. But then I thought, what if Pixonic sees this video? Maybe they might address like only the last 3 and then say, well, they did address some of the problems. So this is why I'm going to be focusing on my top 3, which I think needs to be addressed and fixed in the game in order for this game to basically survive and, carry through not only, for War Robots, the mobile version, but also for Frontiers. And you guys can always contribute your ideas in the comment section down below. I'm going to try to keep things constructive here. So when I talk about the problem, I'm also going to mention, how I would actually fix things if I was a developer. So I guess without further ado, let's get started with the first problem. So the first problem I'm going to mention is probably the worst of the bunch. That is the hackers and the cheaters. So you get those that use the blatant hacks. Okay, so you drop into a game and there's a hellburner zipping in and out, destroying everyone within seconds. And then you have those that are using the subtle hacks. And I think the subtle hacks are probably the worst of the bunch because the thing is, these players actually change the stats of their robots. So you notice like their, ability cooldown is shorter. Their weapons are doing more damage. It's harder to kill their bots because they've changed the resistance or the health, of their robots. You don't really know what you're going up against. And that has really destroyed the fun for me when it comes to playing this game. Because when I drop in, I want to try to figure out, what build can counter my opponent. But the thing is, I can't figure that out because they've changed the stats, of their robots, which means all the videos out there where you see like comparisons, it's basically irrelevant because you don't know what you're fighting, right? So this is going to have an impact on the integrity of the game, Pixonic as a company. And the thing is, if they can't fix this problem in the mobile version, how are they going to deal with this when it comes to Frontiers? So as far as, my solution or what I would do as a developer, now this is probably a thing that needs to be addressed on the server side. It's not something that you can just ban players because if you ban a player, they're just going to create another account, apply the hack, and they're back again. There needs to be something on the server side where it can detect when players, are using subtle hacks. If it detects like, oh, this person's weapons are doing more damage, it raises a red flag, and this alerts Pixonic. Either there's an automated ban or something that happens, but this is what needs to happen as far as the cheaters and the hackers. So I hope Pixonic is working on a solution that is kind of close to what I just mentioned, but this problem needs to be addressed very soon. So the second problem in the game, I would say, is definitely the matchmaking. Now, in all honesty, this game has always had problems with matchmaking going all the way back to 2014, in fact. Back then, for those of you who don't know, the matchmaking was actually based on the level of your equipment. Now, you might think that, well, that seems more fair. The problem is players figured out a way to exploit that system. So we had 3 tiers. We had bronze tier, silver tier, and gold tier. The problem is players figured out, how you could play at the higher levels of, say, bronze tier. All you needed to do was to run like level 2 Cossacks with level 4 Punishers, and you could beat up all the new players. You get their gold, their silver, and you level up really quickly. That is a problem because the game doesn't grow, and obviously it doesn't promote progression as far as your robots go, because you don't need to really get, other robots. You just keep doing the same thing and building resources. So that was a problem. The current league system, when it's working, the games are actually more competitive. The problem is players are dropping down in leagues. They are deliberately losing so they can lower their league system and play against lower level players. That is a problem. Now, Pixonic did implement a league drop, limit of 2 leagues, but I think that needs to be actually 1 league. But still, I'm noticing like my overall experience at the top has diminished actually quite a bit, like as far as my enjoyment. And I think one of the reasons why isn't because the players are lower level. In many cases, they actually have higher level equipment, but the problem is they don't have the experience to play at that higher level. Okay, so they have the equipment, but the experience level has diminished. So I'm not sure how I would actually solve this. I think one of the things we need to look at is perhaps, both looking at the level of your equipment in order to balance things right as far as games go, but also perhaps account level. So right now, for example, you have level 30, which is the max level. Maybe there needs to be an account level where the new matchmaking, is basing it on the equipment level, but also your account level in order to balance the games a lot better. Because I think that would help. But obviously, this is going to take time. If you guys have other ideas of how you would balance matchmaking, leave it in the comment section down below, because I would like to read, what you have to say about matchmaking overall and how you would balance it. Because I know there's a lot of players that complain about it, but how would you balance it if you were given the chance to do that? There is also one thing which I wanted to mention. When you are playing as a solo player, you should never really run into full squads. I think the system should detect, if there's two players that are kind of teaming up, they are thrown against full squads. So what would actually happen then is you would have one full squad on one side, and on the other side, you might have, say, 3 teams of duos. So that kind of makes more sense to me as far as matchmaking goes. You guys can let me know your thoughts on that. And the last thing which I'm going to address, which has been destroying the fun for me and my overall gaming experience playing War Robots, is the amount of lag. Now, I've actually mentioned in the past multiple times that this game is really complex now, and being that we have a more complex game with drones, pilots, and all of that stuff, it's all contributing to the amount of lag. I've even actually mentioned that sometimes when I'm shooting a player, I don't even know what I'm shooting at because there's so many effects going off, and that part doesn't really make sense to me because so much time and effort and resources are spent developing a robot that looks really cool, but you can't even appreciate it because you can't even see, the robot. There's so many effects going off. So I would actually tone down on the effects for one, and try to simplify the game. Now, when I say simplify the game, what I mean by this is if you decide to take away drone chips, make sure that you compensate those players fairly, because if you keep them happy, they are more likely to stick around, more likely to play, more likely to spend, and as a result, the game will thrive. And remember, if the game thrives, so will Frontiers when that game is released. And I think it's really important that you build up that trust, with the players. Make sure that you listen to them because they are the future of the game. If you don't have players, you don't have a game. And I think that is pretty much all I have to say regarding the 3 problems that I think needs to be fixed in War Robots as soon as possible. You guys can let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Try to keep it constructive if you will. And with that said, thank you guys for watching. And until the next video, I'll catch you guys later.